The Mobius tool has some main functionalities, that is making scenarios on how can I improve my product. You can set comparisons to other products that you already modeled within the software tool, and you can see what kind of changes you can do to make a new product or change your current product for the better. We would like to welcome everyone for this open demo of the Mobius software tool. I'm Bas Louwers. I'm account executive at Ecochain, and I'm here with Ike Bak. Please.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm an environmental specialist at Ecochain, and I help companies calculate the environmental impact of their products.
Perfect. Thank you, Ike. I'm going to slide in the full screen. So today we're going to talk about the Mobius tool, and we have three main topics that we're going to discuss, and that is who is Ecochain, what is the Mobius tool, and how does the Mobius tool work? So let's begin. The first subject that we're going to talk about today is who is Ecochain. Ecochain is a purpose-driven company that is based in Amsterdam and has around 50 people working at it. We empower companies to start measuring their environmental impact, and that is something we do with two software tools, which are called Mobius and Helix. We have made around 300,000 LCA reports at this stage, so we do know what we're talking about. And today I'm going to show you the Mobius tool. Let's start with the two software tools that we have. The Mobius tool is an Ecodesign tool that helps companies understand the impact of single products and give them access to see what they could improve and see what kind of things they can do to improve their products. The Helix software tool, on the other hand, is a software tool that looks at whole product portfolios. So if you want to measure the impact of a whole category or all your products at the same time, you can use the Helix software tool to do so. The Mobius tool, on the other hand, is an Ecodesign tool, and that is something we're going to dive deeper in now. The Mobius tool has some main functionalities, that is making scenarios on how can I improve my product. You can set comparisons to other products that you already modeled within the software tool, and you can see what kind of changes you can do to make a product, a new product, or change your current product for the better. The main KPIs that we have is measure in your product's environmental impact, compare products, processes, and materials, design more sustainable products, so eco-design, and we do that with an easy, quickly, and credible tool. So very interesting. So what is exactly a life cycle assessment, an LCA report? So a life cycle assessment is a calculation of the impact of a product, and that has certain life cycles. We probably already know that it has a production phase, a packaging phase, a transportation phase, a user phase, and a waste phase, or end of life phase, as we call it. And if you build that up, that whole model, you get a certain score. That score, probably a lot of you know, can be CO2 equivalents, but there are also a lot of other impact categories that are placed right here. So for instance, you can choose between water. Some companies are very interested in how much water is used during the life cycle for whole product, but you could also look at the land usage, for instance, or human toxicity. So a lot of things that you can choose from. The next step, what I would like to tell you is, why do companies exactly want to start with a life cycle assessment? We at Ecochain see four main reasons why companies want to start. The first one is internal decisions. So for instance, stakeholders that want to know more about their company or their products. So what is exactly the impact that we have as a company? Or maybe your company wants to hire or get more investors, which you want to show them what your impact is regarding your own products and maybe to your competitors as well. The second one that we have is customer demands. So customers that are asking for certain scores or impact reports on your products and see what they want to buy. The other one, the third one is making claims. So do you as a company want to show to your customers what the impact of your products are? That is something you do with making a life cycle assessment. The last one, and probably the most, the one that we all know, is that there's a climate change going on and we need to do something to try and reduce that impact that we have. And that is something you do with measuring your impact and mainly of your products and see what you can change to make it better. Before we go into the Mobius tool itself, I do want to emphasize that we have a help center within the software tool. So if you need any help with starting modeling a product or during modeling a product, or you don't exactly know what the next step will be, you can go to the help center within the tool and it gives you guidance in what kind of steps you need to take. We have a lot of videos in there as well that gives you guidance in what you can do as a company and as a company in the Mobius tool. So let's dive deeper in the Mobius tool itself. I'm gonna share my screen. Give me 1 second, please. Let's see. I think everybody can see my screen. I see Sazla nodding her head, so that's good. So welcome everybody to the real Mobius demo. So we're gonna dive deeper in the tool itself. One last thing I want to emphasize once again is over here we have the help center. Please click on it if you have any help during your free trial, and we can give you guidance without any help because the guidance is already in the help center. So good luck if you want to try it. So we're in the Mobius tool, which is a web-based tool, and we have 3 main functionalities within this software tool, which are go to products, go to lifecycle, and go to objects. We're going to go through them one by one, but we're going to start with the go to products itself. What we do with the go to products is we're going to make a model of the production phase of a product. In this case, we made a model for a t-shirt, a couple of them actually. One is black, one is white, and we're going to try and tell you a little bit how that works. So we're going to go into the black t-shirt. What we did is we made 4 main building blocks, as we call it. In this case, we have electricity, natural gas, the raw material itself, and the waste fabrics. That is something we need, or you need yourself to find out what those impacts are. But our software tool can give you guidance in what the impact eventually is with modeling the right reference to the situation that you have. As you can see, the electricity has an impact. The natural gas has an impact because we made the connection to a impact category, but we also have impacts on the raw materials. Well, the interesting thing is that a raw material itself has an impact, but it also goes through phases during the production phase, that has some impact as well. So in this case, it has some bleach that happens. It's non-woven. It has a yarn process, which also has certain impacts. And eventually, if you build that whole product up, you get a CO2 score in this situation. What you can also do in the tool, and what we already mentioned, is that we have other impact categories that you can change to. I speak to a lot of customers and they normally tell me that they are very interested in CO2, of course, but also companies want to know what the impact on the land is, for instance. And with just a click on the button, it changes to what the impact on land uses is. So very interesting to find out yourself what you want to try and figure out. So that's something interesting. Why it's called an Ecodesign tool is because you can set scenarios and comparisons. We're going to show that right now. What we do with making a scenario is that we place the same product next to each other. So the same, if I'm correct, the same CO2 scores on the bottom. And what you can choose, what you can do in this scenario is you can change certain parts of your product. So for instance, what if we change our electricity supplier from a gray electricity supplier to a green electricity supplier? What does it do for the impact of our products? So you can make a real eco-design new product. You can also set it next to each other in sunbursts, so you can make a sort of overview on it, or on a flat view base, so you can also see what the changes are during the design phase. The last thing I want to show you in this situation is that you can also set comparisons. So in this, we're gonna place a white t-shirt next to it. So what happens is you can make a comparison between two t-shirts that you already modeled. In this situation, what you can see is that a white t-shirt has a higher impact in terms of CO2 than the black t-shirt. And with the flat view, you can exactly see what the changes are or what is for the worst or the best. So that's very interesting to find out yourself. This is the production phase, so the go to product phase. We're going to go to the next phase, which is the go to life cycle. In the presentation that I gave you, you already saw that we have certain life cycle stages. And with this software tool, you can also include all the other stages. So we're going to go look, or maybe a company wants to look at their packaging or their transport or their use phase and their end of life phase. And that is all possible during this functionality that we have. Eventually you build up again your CO2 score, but you can also make changes during, once again, the scenario phase, where you can, for instance, also see what would the difference be if we change our supplier from someone out of China to someone out of Italy. What does it do for instance, the impact in terms of transportation? So you can really dive deep into the eco-design phase of your own company and your own products. So very interesting. In this situation, you can also make flat views. So yeah, you can see what the difference are in terms of what is the water usage difference or the ocean ship difference. So the transportation phase, what can we change to make it for the better? So very interesting functionality as well. We're going to go already because it goes quite quickly already. We're going to go to the last functionality already, which is the go to objects, which I personally think is very interesting for companies, because what we do at the object library is we pre-model, or you can pre-model yourself, certain references to your raw materials or your processes. So what happens is you have your own personalized library within the tool that you can choose from if you model a new product. So let's make an example. You want to make a new t-shirt, but you already modeled what the impact of your cotton is out of China. You can just click a button and add it to the new model, which makes it a lot quicker than making whole new references for every situation that you make a new product. So that is very interesting and makes it very personalized. So that is very, very interesting for everybody. Because we already finished the demo in this situation, we're gonna go to the Q&A, which Sasla is gonna ask us some questions that you already made or asked in the Q&A section. And my colleague Ike is gonna take over my place during this during this phase. And she's gonna answer all the interesting questions. Well, they're all interesting, of course, but she's gonna answer your questions. So please, Ike, if you can join me. Yeah.
Thank you, Bas.
Yes, all right. So indeed, of course, a very important aspect of every demo are, of course, the questions. Now, we already asked people beforehand as well to send some questions you've had. So we're also going to include those next to the ones in the Q&A. And I see a lot of questions coming in, so that's really great. So indeed, the first question. What can you do if a raw material is a big impact hotspot? So this refers to what we saw previously, right? If you have your life cycle overview and you see that a raw material has a big impact hotspot, what do you do? Ike?
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is something, a nice outcome of your life cycle assessment, because this is where you can make the change happen, of course. What I usually do then is go to object library and, for example, make a comparison. And what we did here already, is that what here? Oh, in the products. Super. Yeah, what we did here already is a raw material comparison. And for example, you want to look at the fabric because that's a relatively high impact that we saw earlier. What you can do then is model different types of raw material under each other. So all with the same unit, so you can compare them really well. And here we can see the difference in impact, which they have. And if you compare them in this way, you have a better insight of the environmental impact of the different ones. You can also click them open and compare them in that level, as Bas showed earlier. But this generally gives a nice overview, and there you can experiment with different types of raw materials before you will buy them or change your whole product.
Right, great. I think that's a really good visual answer. Thank you. Then we have a lot of questions about the data you need to make an LCA. And actually, I think there are already 4 that are all about the input data. So we saw how Bas modeled, of course, a life cycle and that there was impact associated to it. But do you have all this input data yourself, or where does it come from in the case of Mobius now?
Yes, that's a good question, because this is something, connecting the references and environmental impact. It's a very detailed step in the LCA tool. And where you can find that is in the library. For example, if you see this folder image, then you see, okay, this is the lowest object that we have. And that means that an impact is connected to that. And there are 3 ways to connect an impact to that. You can see it here on the right corner. And if you click on this little pen icon, you open the database search. And here you can search different databases that we have available. Here you can specify in which database you want to search. We have Ecoinvent available, but also the Nationale Milieu database, which is for the construction sector. And when you want to select one, for example, this, you can search here in the search bar for your item. And here it already gives you some suggestions on what you can look for. And in this way, you can connect a reference point from the database. So if I click cotton, it will give me some suggestions, and you will just have to scroll around a bit in this database to search your preferred one. You can also click them open for more information. So you can look, okay, what's included in this reference? And then you can be a bit more sure about, okay, is this the right reference for me to connect? This can be a very challenging exercise, but we are here to help. So you can always book a consultation with a specialist to talk about how this can be done. What we also have is the elementary flows. This is a bit more specific. I'm not going to dive into this deeper, but we also have the custom impacts because this is the really primary data. For example, you have a supplier and they also have already collected their environmental impact data. Then you have the very specific information of them and you can just fill it out here. And then you have the very specific one because the database reference points are a bit more generic.
Yes, well, that's already a great bridge to a lot of other questions, which is about this primary data. So as Ike already explained, the impact databases that we have in Mobius and in Helix, they are scientifically approved, but more general impact databases. And here I also asked, do you use the database for the product impact alone, or do you need to also get information from suppliers? Now, this is, of course, a big thing, Ike. This is the whole primary versus secondary data. So do you also need data from your suppliers?
Yes, well, you do not need it to make a very quick overview in first instance. So you can start with it right away. But when you are going deeper into your fabric, for example, and into your product, and you find some hotspots that have a really high impact, then you can think, well, maybe it's better if I have more specific data for this one because the database reference you select are generic ones. So then it makes sense to contact your suppliers and to get the specific data.
Yes, so this is really about improving the quality of your LCA, right? So indeed, this these impact databases, they're great because they can already give you a lot of information where your impact is coming from, which is exactly what you need to start collecting, indeed, maybe more primary data on the raw materials that cause your biggest impact. So it's a really great indication. All right, thank you. Then I also have a question here, which I think was already answered a little bit, but it's about the methodology used for impact categories. So I think this is also what you just showed, and this person references to the EN 15804 plus A2, which is construction related. What kind of other methodologies can you apply on your LCA within Mobius?
Yes, that's a good question, because there are various methods, as I'm sure the question asker knows. But you can go to, let's see, the workspace settings and change the methods that you use. It opens up here in the right, and you can change into the ones that you want. So we have the environmental footprint methods available, the EN 15804 for the construction sector, SBK bepalingsmethodes for the Dutch construction sector, and also various methods that are available in OpenLCA. So I will quickly click this one to show you. We have all the ones that are available there. So sometimes, for example, for the US market, you will need some TRACI indicators, which are those methods. So it's very, flexible what you can do with this.
Yeah, so everything is there.
Exactly,
The short answer. Yes, exactly. All right. Then I have a really nice question here, which is about a company. This person works in skincare, and they're very struggling with information more widely available, of course, on this industry. How does Mobius work with chemicals? Do we have data to help this person out?
Yes, we do have chemicals in the database, which is the Ecoinvent database. And let's see, I can quickly show you a bit more, because then here you can select all the chemicals where they are. Well, here you have various sectors in the database, which you can open up and then select the right references. So it helps you with finding the reference. But sometimes the chemicals are not available in the database, and that's of course a more tricky situation. And then we can help you as specialists to define, okay, which reference can you combine maybe, or which one is the best to use in that instance. So
Yes.
yeah.
So indeed, I think there were a couple of questions about this too. What if I have a more new product, right? Or a more difficult product of which there's not a lot of data available? That's the great thing, as Bas already pointed out, and Ike as well. Also in the help center, you can book a call if you want with a specialist, and they can also help you indeed in creating more specific references to really help you make, a more specific high quality LCA for your specific product. All right. Super. Then let me see. I have another question. Okay, so what if I do have all the primary data already available? Now, this is again, right? To make an LCA, you need data. And here you have the secondary and primary data part. And primary data is really accurate data that you measure from your production facilities, those kinds of things. So what if you already have this primary data?
Well, that's a very nice situation that you're in then, because then it's really easy to build up your LCA in this tool. What you can do is fill it out manually in the way I just showed here. But what you can also do is import your product as a product via a CSV template. If you go back to the product page, you can also import a product. So you have here an import button. If I click it, you can select the CSV file to upload, but you can also download an example, so you have the right format. And we have formats available for uploading your primary data as well.
Yeah, super. Yes, and this whole data collection thing is, of course, quite difficult. But again, we're here to help you out there as well. So if you are struggling a little bit when you're trying out Mobius, we have a complete webinar also with Ike on data collection. Yes, great. And in our knowledge blog on the website, you can also find a lot of information on primary versus secondary data. I will share the links with you as well in the chat. But if you go to our website to learn, you will find the webinars, knowledge, and everything you need as well to help you with this phase 2. All right, then. Okay, so, here's also an interesting question. In the beginning, we showed that we have 2 different tools, right? So Helix and Mobius. This person is asking, what's the difference specifically? Because his or her company produces a lot of different products. And then what would be the better fit for you? How can you tell?
Yeah, that's a fun question because it kind of depends on what you want to find out with your company. Do you first want to get a whole overview of your total product portfolio? Because that's what we do with the first tool, Helix. That's the tool we're not showing right now. Then you're going from a top-down approach to connect your impact from a whole year of your company, also all the production processes. So that's you get bulk LCAs from all your products portfolios. And then when you maybe see some products that have a high impact, you can transfer them to Mobius. So you can also have a Mobius account, but this is really more for designing products. And then maybe you can get some nice design ideas to lower the impact of your products.
Yes. All right. Super. Thank you. So indeed, again, you can read a little bit more about Helix on our website. The difference is really the scope. So if you really want to make LCAs of your whole portfolio and look more high over, Helix is a very good choice. If you really, as Ike said, want to zoom into more individual products, then Mobius really is the better choice as well. Okay, so here I have another interesting one. Of course, there's a lot of LCA action going on in construction, as we know, especially in the Netherlands, but also in Europe, this is increasing a lot. So how do you go from LCA results that, your results to an EPD? Like, how do we help customers do that?
Yeah, good question. Well, first for an EPD, you will need a verified LCA background report. So we support clients in writing that. We can or write it totally ourselves for you, or we can help you supporting in writing the document by generating EPD or LCA background templates. We have that available in the Helix tool. You can do that for one product or for your whole product portfolio over there. And then in Mobius, we can also help you write a background report. For example, if you have one product that you want to verify. And once that is completed, the LCA background report, you send it to an external verificator, verified party, and then they will approve it or give you some feedback. We can help you with that, or we can just totally do it. Then when you have that, you go to an EPD platform, and then you can publish it there. And publishing will also need some additional information, maybe some commercial text, for example, from the Nationale Milieu Database, for example. You have to fill out some text. And what we also have available in Helix is a environmental profile, and that's a PDF file that has all the environmental impact data of your product. And you can download that from our tool. And if it's externally verified, you can also use that in tenders, for example. So that's also an option. You don't have to publish your EPD on the platform.
Yeah. So again, short summary, it is very much possible. And we have a lot of great partners also for verification. So this shouldn't be an issue for indeed both tools. Then I have a question here. Will there be a webinar of Helix too? Yes, this is the planning. This will be in the end of November. We are already setting it up now, so keep an eye out, but we will also send an email to you about this new webinar as well. And this will also give you an in-depth view of indeed what Helix can do and all the things we've just spoken about as well on the EPD. Then let me see. I have an interesting question here from someone. Is it possible to monetize different indicators to compare what the hotspots are? Or do you need a separate Excel sheet for that?
No, we have the MKI, so that's a milieu cost indicator. And that you can arrange in the workspace settings. So if you go here, put it on the right settings, of course. So for the bepalingsmethode. And then you will have the options of selecting MKI total, and then impact category is not necessary. Well,
And just Ike, so this MKI is of course a Dutch word, and I think the English translation is environmental cost indicator. And what does the environmental cost indicator do? How can it help?
yeah, that's a good one. So here, for example, you see now the euro value unit. And with this comes from a method from the bepalingsmethode. With this, you have 13 indicators, such as global warming potential, acidification, toxicity, for example, and you characterize them into one unit. So you actually take 13 indicators into account in one value, and that's then the MKI.
Yeah, and then it's so this is expressed in euros, and this is really specifically something that's asked in construction and infrastructure in the Netherlands. But it's indeed also a really useful way to have an overview indeed of all your indicators and compare them. So that's really nice. All right, then I'm gonna do I think 3 more questions because we're also going into the time limit here. Okay, let me see. So if I'm buying or if I buy products from someone else and I want to know this person says that they would buy a pump, for example, from someone else, do they also need to know every step of the production process of that pump?
Well, sometimes you have already pre-modeled references available in the database. For example, for a laptop, you already have that in the database. You don't need to know all the different steps before it was a laptop component. And for some motors, for example, that's also the case. But we will have to check the database if your reference is already available or that we need some additional information.
Yeah, all right. But I hope this was a good question. Answer, I mean. All right, then let me see. There's a lot of great questions in here. Let me quickly see. All right, so how can you use Mobius to create an LCA framework?
Well, as Bas already mentioned, so here we're looking at products. So this is only the product's production phase. So you will need to collect information on your raw materials, that's in here, but also on the transportation. So where did you get it from? Oh. Let's see, I see that's not in this example, but you will also need to add a transport. So for example, excuse me, if I do want to add transport, I can just click on this plus button and look for, what was it? Ocean ship. I saw it in there. So this is already pre-modeled object from your object library. And for example, I will put there this amount of distance. Then you can add it and you see it's added here and also has already an impact connected to it. So this is kind of how you build up your life cycle in Mobius. And you will want to take into account the raw materials, transport of that, the production process emissions, and also the waste types. And then if you want to go further into detail, so this is only production process, so cradle to gate. And if you're interested in also the use and life cycle, I suggest do that in the life cycle page, because then you get a really nice overview of all the impacts there.
Yes. And you just mentioned cradle to gate, and I think this is going to be one of our final questions. I also saw it come by. Of course, in LCA, you can choose kind of different models in how much you want to calculate. So we just said, okay, you can do it from, the production to end of life. What are the different types of LCA models that you can choose from? And can you do all of them in Mobius?
Yes, good question. Let's see. If I want to make, for example, new life cycle, I can create one, and then we can select the different kind of phases that we want to include. So now we have one of 5 phases, but you can also do one of 3, and you can also do, well, whatever you want. You can adapt them later on. And you can do only production if you want. So that's cradle to gate. You can do the whole life cycle. So cradle to waste. Sorry, it just slipped my mind. Or you can do cradle to cradle. So that's kind of for the circularity. So those are all available in Mobius. and it's up to you where you want to focus on and how far you want to go.
All right, great. Thank you, Ike. Okay, we have a couple of more questions, but everybody left their email, so that's great. So we will make sure to answer them. Don't worry about that. Bas will come back to you, so that's really nice. Yes, there's also some, some more product specific, really unique kind of questions, but you will get your answer. So don't worry about that. We are at the end now of the webinar. I just wanted to say one more thing. I included in the normal chat the link to our webinar page on our website. This is where we also have the recordings from our previous webinars, which are also about data collection, how to choose, different materials, what do you base it on. This is all really nice information. And if you would like to start the free trial, then this is also really great information for you to get started. And again, indeed, the Help Center, a lot of these questions that we just discussed are also mentioned in there. So I think this will help a lot. So yeah, stay tuned for the webinar page as well. We will send you an invite if you want for the Helix demo, which is also going to come up. A lot of great content, and you can always find a lot of knowledge as well on our knowledge blog on the website. Now, okay, the floor is going back to you, Bas.
Yeah. So the last thing I wanted to mention during this open demo is that the Mobius tool also has a free trial available on our website. So please visit the website ecochain.com, go to the Mobius page, and there you're able to start a 14-day free trial. You don't need to add any credit cards, whatever information. So it's totally free, and you can just try it out, see if it would be a match to your situation, and if you would like to do some kind of eco design. So that was my last thing I wanted to mention, and I really wanted to thank you all for joining our open demo today. Thank you.